What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Davey Sports Podcast. This is episode 172, recording this on the evening of Saturday, January 11th, 2025. Matty's back with me. What's up, Matty?
What's up, everyone? How's everyone doing?
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Yeah.
The morning day got progressively better, I'd say, based off what happened today, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
There's a reason we decided to do this tonight instead of waiting for the end for all the wild card weekend games we played.
Yeah, we did.
Yes, it's not because of the asset game. I mean, that was disappointing just because it was a young team. They showed no poise in the hostile environment of the pit. Maybe I should have seen that coming with the way New Mexico's been playing. They're now 6-0 in the Mountain West, and just an ugly game. It's just frustrating though because if you told me before the game that we'd hold them to 62, I would have thought we would have won. I mean, we only scored 48 against a team that had been allowing 75 game coming in. I mean, it was just bad. Way too many turnovers. And one of the things I said last night was you got to get back on defense. And there were some key moments in the game where New Mexico pushed the pace and got a key basket. Like we scored the first 5 of the second half, within 5. And then Davis is like a half step slow or half step behind, and they quickly inbound the ball, and Dent goes and gets an and one. And then it's like erased all the momentum we had.
It happened again, another instance the second half where we made a 3, and then they got a quick. I think it was either another and one, or they got a shooting foul like seconds after we made a 3. But it happened multiple times. It's frustrating because honestly, defensively, when we held them to the half court and slowed them down, we did a good job.
Yeah, the only problem with the half court was the rebounding because our big guys are just too soft, especially JCJ. And New Mexico's a big team, and they got a bunch of offensive rebounds.
I think one thing that we didn't mention the last time I was on here earlier this week, and I know you didn't mention it last night. I read yesterday that this was our first time playing in altitude for most of the guys who were young or transferred in. So maybe that factored into this. So yeah, it's a learning experience, and I think at this point, yeah, we have the Houston win. The Creighton win doesn't look as great as we thought it would be. I just feel like with this team, it's a good team, but don't have the same expectations as we had the last 2 years.
No, I mean, I know, and that's the thing too I wanted to say is that for the people go crazy either way after games. After a really good game, people will be like, oh my God, this team is so good. I just don't know how we're going to keep them all together because of NIL from the bigger schools. And then they lose game. It's like, oh, they suck. They have to win the Mountain West tournament to get in. No, that's not the case.
Both are wrong. I'm in the middle, of course, but I just think for me, the team's youth, inexperience, and just lack of chemistry playing together for that long has shown during our losses and even during some of our wins. And I think we should have expected this to earlier on, but I just feel like the ceiling is definitely lower than the previous 2 years, and that's okay.
I don't even think it's not the ceiling, dude. The ceiling's still sky high. The floor is just lower.
True.
The talent is there, and they show it at times. It's just the lack of consistency, the lack of experience lowers the floor.
That's why I say ceilings. I don't know. This team isn't as experienced as we've had our national title game run, and then last year's team even as well.
No, those teams were both much more experienced. So.
But and they had more continuity. I think that's why I'm saying there's even this. That's why I said I'm not sure about the ceiling on this team. So well, I just feel like I think from here on out, I mean the sucky part is we only have 2 quad 1 games left. And
that's another thing that made today hurt. And and if they didn't choke the Utah State game, you could have said, "Oh well, today happens. You weren't going to go 20-0." But that's 2 losses now, and already.
Yeah, so I think just the fact that we don't have a lot of good opportunities left in conference means we can't improve our seed. And right now, looking at it, we're around an 8 or a 9, and you don't want to be in that position. Besides the bubble, so
No,
I
I
just don't
mean,
feel like this team is gonna make the second weekend this year. I just want to make the tournament and get all the experience we can rest of the year, and hopefully we can grow. And just like you said, I don't think our guys, besides Bird, are good enough for other teams to really want them in the portal yet.
yeah, and I think Bird would be more likely to go to the NBA at this point than the portal. So
Exactly. Like I said last pod, I think Bird is either an Aztec next year or he's in the NBA draft. But
yeah,
I think everyone else, they still have their growing pains, or like they have their weaknesses that like other teams will say,
yeah,
there's
which
someone else
actually
better.
works out well because
It
then
does.
they can improve another year with us, and then we'll be really
Yes.
really good next year. So
Again, I just think the lack of continuity is what's hurting us. And like having more youth than usual. Because again, we've had
yeah, when's the
experience
last
that
time under Fisher or Dutcher we've had a team this young?
I don't remember. Maybe 2014, 2015,
Yeah,
something like that. Like towards the end of Fisher's era. But like ever since Dutch took over, you notice the trend of him having like stocking up on veteran guys. So this is really Dutch's first time having two freshmen, a redshirt freshman, and more underclassmen getting a lot of playing time compared to having seniors and juniors and fifth year seniors.
yeah, absolutely, I agree.
So I think I still trust Dutch. I still trust the coaching staff. Like bottom line is I just want the team to get as much experience as possible because I think we can return mostly everyone and we can be a really good team next year.
No, I totally agree with that. For sure. It's
Mhm.
just that you know we still, I guess, more growing for this young team. I guess is what today taught us.
Yeah, so like bottom line is for people who are super optimist on this team, I would say pump the brakes a little bit. And
Yeah, I
for
would too.
people who are saying we suck, we're gonna miss the tournament, I say stop there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That feels like we say that all the time on here, but it's true.
Right. So like my I think just my expectations is make the tournament. Make the
Yeah,
tournament and win the games you're supposed to and go from
yeah,
there. So yeah, sucky game today. Hopefully we can bounce back and get some wins as we play the lower tier of teams in the Mountain West.
yeah. I don't think they'll have a lot of problems with the
No.
lower tier teams. It's just that the tough. It'll be yeah, like the tough road environments will be kind of shaky.
So yeah, and I think well, just looking at it, Utah State would be the last one. Would be the last like hostile environment. So we got the pit out of the way. So that's the good thing.
Yeah, that's good.
But yeah, I just feel like today woke me up a little bit and
Yeah,
uh we just gotta stay patient and just it's just a reminder of again, like I feel like as Aztec fans, we're not used to this.
no, absolutely. We're definitely not.
No, so like this is something new for some Aztec fans, but stay the course. Like the team is still good. Just don't expect us to go as far as we have the last 2 years.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't expect that at all.
Right. And that's fine. There's always gonna be some years where you have a down year, like for our standards. But we'll be
Yeah,
okay as a program.
for sure. I mean, kind of. I guess today showed why they picked us to finish fourth.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it, but you said it for me. So hopefully they can learn, and I just wish that they can today can wake them up a bit. That's what I want to see. How will they
Yeah.
respond?
Yeah. I mean, Colorado State, I don't think they're that great of a team, but they are 4-1 in the Mountain West, so you better be ready to play Tuesday night.
And then UNLV always wants to play as well, so
Yeah.
it's not going to be a cakewalk. I want to see us. I just want to see us play with more consistency. I just want to see us play more of a complete game instead of playing for 20 to 30 minutes.
Yeah, the sucky thing about this Colorado State game, though, is that it's a quad 3 game, yet they've been playing better lately, so it's not like a complete cakewalk.
No, and like
They won today against UNLV, right? I think I saw that.
yeah, they won today against UNLV.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So yeah, I just don't want to see the lulls that we've had during because we've had lulls like almost every game. And we've gotten away with some of them, but I just want to see us play more of a complete 40 minutes, as close to that as possible.
Yeah, I would as well.
And again, the one thing that I'm clinging on hope for is the fact and reminder that Dutch-led teams have gotten better throughout the year.
Yeah, and I think with a young team, you think that would be more true than ever.
True. And again, the fact that you pointed it out last week, or I think even after the Utah, either last week or 2 weeks ago, we played one of the least amount of games in D1.
Yeah.
So hopefully playing twice a week now and getting more games in helps us.
Yeah, because when you play that few games, it's very difficult to build a rhythm. So that could be part of it, the equation too.
Because yeah, New Mexico entering today played, I believe, 16 games. We only played 13.
That's a big difference.
Playing 3 more games.
Yeah, that's huge.
So yeah, hopefully that's how we build our continuity, is us playing 2 times a week now. Every week until we hit conference tournament, except for one, which is in early February.
Yeah, first week of February.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think just stay patient, and I'm still hopeful the team can grow.
Yeah, I think that they've shown enough potential that you should definitely be hopeful for that. So let's just hope that they play 2 good games this week against Colorado State and UNLV at home.
Yeah, just take care of who you're supposed to be. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, and there's still a long way to go to determining what kind of season this will be. Remember,
Yeah.
I'm not saying this team's going to the national championship game. I don't think that at all. But the 2022 to 2023 team lost their 4th game to New Mexico in mid-January as well.
They did.
4th game of the season was against New Mexico in mid-January.
Conference play. Yeah, both of us were there.
Yeah,
for that New Mexico game 2 years ago at Viejas. So
where everyone was getting technical fouls.
Yep, ugly game.
That's Jalen House for you, though. There's always fun when he's involved.
Yep. So, yeah, give New Mexico credit. They played a good game, and they did what they had to do defensively.
Oh, for sure. I mean, they've been on fire for sure, and they deserve credit for that. So, yeah, congrats to the Lobos, and shout out to our buddy Lobo Gabe, who was at the game today, as he is at most Lobo home games. What's up, Gabe? Hope you're doing well, man.
Shout out to you, man. Yeah, you're a good guy, and
one of the realest Mountain West basketball fans on Twitter. Y'all should follow him at Lobo Gabe.
Yeah, a great Lobo fan and a great Mountain West basketball fan in general. So
yeah, absolutely.
Guys handed us today, so hopefully we can bounce back.
So congrats to your team today, Gabe, and hopefully we get you guys back at Viejas next month.
Yep, February 25th. We have the date circle.
Yeah. All right. You got anything else on the Aztecs? We talked for quite a bit about them. So, got anything else there?
No, I think we just wanted to say everything that needed to be said at this point, because there's a middle ground.
There usually is. It almost always is.
And that's what we're here for.
Yeah, so now this is the reason we decided to come on tonight because of the
Mhm.
two NFL playoff games. And what happened in the first game?
I called it.
You did call it. I'll give you credit for it. I mean, I didn't. I was like, I hope you're right, and I'm wrong, but I didn't see it, and I'm stunned that not only it happened, but that it was that decisive.
Yeah, like I just felt like again with that franchise, they always find a way to charger it. You don't know
I
how, but there's always a way. And there's always new ways that you can't think of that will happen. And today happened.
Yeah. I didn't see it because I was like, because reality, Houston was not even a good team this year. I mean, the
No.
Texans went 5-1 in the AFC South, the worst division in football. They went 5-6 outside their division during the regular season. That's why I am so stunned that like they could not only lose, but lose that way to them. My God.
I just felt like all year. Well, yeah, you could blame the Texans for being schedule merchants all you want, but you could say the same thing for the Chargers. They were schedule merchants. Again,
Yeah,
like
I mean,
what other playoff team did they beat outside of the Broncos?
they didn't
The
beat a
answer is
single
no
playoff
one.
team outside of Denver. Denver was the only team they beat.
The answer is no one.
Yeah,
So
and even the second Denver game, like they were kind of getting their ass kicked, and then the game turned on the penalty on that set them up for the fair kick catch going into halftime, and then they got a ton of calls in the second half of that game, almost a suspicious amount. Like the NFL called in and was like, "Hey, if the Chargers fall apart in December again, that we have no shot of getting them fans in LA, so we got to step in here." And but to their credit, they did dominate New England and the Raiders. Two bad teams, but they still did the last 2 weeks. So they deserve credit for that.
and again,
But
I just felt like what you pointed out. They played 2 road games before this one, and I just felt like they can't do this for a third game in a row as
yeah,
well.
I mean, I thought that was going to catch up to them next week. I didn't think Houston was good enough, honestly. And obviously, Stroud lost both times he faced Jim Harbaugh when Harbaugh was Michigan's coach and Stroud was at Ohio State. So I felt like the Chargers had that advantage working for them. And then I heard something on the radio yesterday. Some NFL person was on John and Jim, and the NFL person was saying like, well, the Texans were terrible against the blitz, and Minter and the Chargers blitzed the second most times of any team. So I was like, okay, they'll get this one. Like I didn't think they could possibly lose it, but they did. And like you said, schedule merchants. I mean, and let me talk about this. Remember that elite defense we kept hearing about? Oh, they're number 1 in points per game allowed, and nobody scores on them in the red zone. We're going to talk about stuff like that here in a sec with them. You remember hearing all that all season? I sure did.
Yeah, and weren't you the person who said that, oh, look, whenever they faced a good quarterback?
Yeah. I mean, and Stroud didn't have a good year, a bit of a sophomore slump. I'd still say he's a good, talented quarterback, and they gave up 429 yards of offense today.
And guess
429. What? This supposedly elite defense gave up the lead with a 99-yard touchdown drive right before halftime. And then what did Houston take up? Like 7 minutes on the clock in the fourth quarter on that touchdown drive that ended it where Mixon got the touchdown.
And then also, remember, not just a 99-yard touchdown drive. Chargers went 3 and out, and then they allowed the Texans to kick the field goal to end the half.
That was the drive where Stroud got like the 27-yard scramble, right?
With less than 30 seconds left when that drive started. Yes, the 27-yard scramble.
Yeah. So the supposedly elite defense didn't look the part today.
Couldn't stop the run when they needed to save their lives.
Nope. I mean, it's just like, even when you think there's no way they can lose, they still lose. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, did you see the Jay Posner tweet too? I'm going to pull this up real quick if you haven't.
I haven't seen it, no.
So I am going to pull this up. I mean, it probably won't surprise you. But here it is. Since their last AFC title win, since their AFC title win 30 years and 3 days ago, the Chargers have 5 playoff wins, 6 playoff one and dones. They were favored to win all 6 of the latter. 95 versus Colts, 04 versus Jets, 06 versus Pats, 09 versus Jets, 22 at Jags, 24 at Texans. That was me reading the tweet, word for word.
That doesn't surprise. Oh, man.
I mean,
that's not a good franchise. And you know what? Let's dig deeper into them.
Well, I'll start by saying this. You can take the Chargers out of San Diego. You can't take the San Diego out of the Chargers.
That's
one thing.
That quote will never get old, and you're never going to be wrong using it. But let's talk about the main guy, why they lost. You guys, there's guys out there who have been saying Justin Herbert is elite. Look what he did all season. And what did he do today?
Oh my God. I mean, this is the guy that y'all say is the greatest thing ever. Maybe he really is a social media quarterback.
Yeah, maybe he is. I mean,
maybe he really is a social media quarterback after all. That was pathetic. His quarterback rating was 40.9 today.
At one point, it was 22.2 or something like that.
Before that touchdown to McConkey, which didn't end up making a difference in the game anyways.
But if you want to include the 2023 wildcard game against the Jags in there, which is a stain on him because he couldn't close the game out. He's the quarterback. You had ample opportunities to close the game out. But
and they got one touchdown drive in that second half. People were like, oh, they couldn't run the ball. Dicker missed a field goal. The defense didn't stop anybody. None of that would have mattered if they got one touchdown drive.
None. But if you want to look at Herbert's playoff stats, and he obviously there's only 2 games and 2 L's, 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and a suboptimal completion percentage.
Yeah, it was under 50% today. It was under 60% against Jacksonville.
So he's like 55%. I think that was a tweet or something like that I saw. Like Justin Herbert's playoff numbers in 2 games.
And my thing with him is because I'll just say this. Obviously, I know I get it. It's a team sport. Teams win and lose. I mean, I get it. Their receivers suck besides McConkey. The offensive line got beat up today, especially inside. I get it. It's a team game. Defense didn't stop anybody. I get it. I agree with all that. It's a team game. But these guys put him on a pedestal like he's this elite quarterback. And elite quarterbacks elevate the level of the team. And he didn't do that today.
Amen. So for people who wanted to compare him to Brady or Mahomes or any elite quarterback, Herbert's in year 5, guys. He's in year 5.
Yeah. I'll just say this,
no playoff wins, and who has he made better?
Yeah. I mean, and people are going to say, why are you mentioning Brady and Mahomes? Because that's the pedestal people put him on. Act like.
Especially Charger Twitter.
Yeah, okay. Tom Brady won Super Bowls with Chris Hogan as his wide receiver too.
Deion Branch.
Deion Branch, yeah.
Made Julian Edelman a lot better than he would be if he wasn't on other
teams. Yeah, I mean,
even the Wes Welker.
Yeah, Wes Welker wouldn't be as good as he was without. Wes Welker was not that good on the Dolphins.
Oh, yeah.
He was good with Miami, not that good.
No.
And I know people say, well, Mahomes is Kelsey. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he has Kelsey. But that Super Bowl where they beat Philadelphia, the second of his 3 Super Bowls, Juju Smith-Schuster was his wide receiver 1 on that team.
And Marcus Valdez-Scantling was wide receiver 2. One of them he beat that year.
Yeah. So
that was after losing Tyreek.
Yeah. I know that that the Chargers don't have a tight end near Kelsey, obviously, especially Kelsey a couple years ago. But I would say Ladd McConkey's better than Juju.
For sure. But
it's always somebody else's fault with this guy. He never gets the blame for anything. Like even that horrible interception he threw, the first interception, which really was a turning point in the game. They were up 6-0. Stroud throws that horrible pick on 3rd and long, and then the very next play, Herbert throws it across his body, deep downfield with huge no, gets intercepted. And I saw a tweet be like, Quinn Johnson has to go up and fight for that ball. Like, why does this guy get no blame?
And then how can you defend Herbert's pick six? Like, he clearly overthrew McConkey, and it was an easy pick six.
Yeah, the third one, the guy should have caught it and didn't. Okay, that's fine. That doesn't excuse the other ones.
Being too short?
Yeah, no, it is. It's the same. I don't get it with Charger quarterbacks because, like, remember, nothing was Rivers' fault either. Like, and Rivers, most of his career was when the team was in San Diego, and we were fans of the team. Like, so we saw that firsthand. Like, nothing was ever Rivers' fault. Nothing's ever Herbert's fault. I don't get it.
So, yeah,
this guy is literally following the Phillip Rivers arc. Win in the regular season, post stats, and then not win anything in the playoffs, and somehow it'll never be his fault. He's literally following the Phillip Rivers arc as we speak.
Like today, he was a big part of why they lost. No question.
Yeah, I mean, did the whole team crap the bed? Absolutely. But if you're praised and labeled as this elite quarterback, you got to step it up, man.
Again, if you look at quarterbacks and how you want to rank quarterbacks, I can name 6 automatically better than him, and arguably 2 or 3 more.
Yeah. So if obviously you're going to take Mahomes, Lamar, Josh Allen. Those are the 3 no-brainers.
Burrow even made a Super
Bowl.
Bowl.
Absolutely. Burrow almost got to a Super Bowl, almost won. Got to another AFC championship.
Hell, Herbert's not even the best quarterback in his city.
Yes, Stafford is a Super Bowl.
And Stafford has way more longevity and tried his best to bring up a Lions team that was bad.
Yeah, I mean, the Lions didn't win plenty playoff games with him, but the Lions did a heck of a lot more with him in terms of being competitive than they did before him.
Yeah.
And the Lions, obviously the Lions are very well run now, but the Lions were one of the worst organizations in football when most of the time Stafford was there.
Yes.
Pretty much the whole time, because the new regime there with Holmes and Dan Campbell, their first move really was trading Stafford, starting over. So
right,
and the whole time he was in Detroit, they were a bad franchise.
No question.
And then those are kind of the obvious ones, and then there's a bunch more you can argue. You can make a case for at least. Oh, I would take Hurts over Herbert too. That's
6 automatic, and then you can argue.
I would say so too. And then you can make these aren't as clear, but you can make an argument for Dak Prescott. You can make an argument for Jaden Daniels already, especially if he wins tomorrow night in Tampa Bay.
Baker.
Even Baker Mayfield's won 2 playoff games, including the only playoff game that Cleveland's won since the Browns got reactivated.
Yeah. So, bottom line is, Herbert honestly is closer to being 10th than 5th.
Yeah, he's more of you put him with these guys CJ Stroud, who had a great rookie year, kind of, struggled this year, although Stroud outplayed him today, of course.
Yeah.
And then a guy like Daniels, who, breaks out as a rookie and you want to see more, but you're interested in that.
We forgot another guy. I'm putting Goff over him.
Oh, yeah. Goff got to a Super Bowl with the Rams, and he has got to an NFC championship with Detroit. Yeah, I would put Goff over him too.
So again, that's a 7th guy over him.
Yeah, and Jacksonville has been such a bad organization. I wouldn't even say that Trevor Lawrence is that far behind him.
No, even a Jordan Love.
I'd like to see because you put Trevor Lawrence doesn't have a receiver as good as McConkey.
No,
I think Doug Peterson is a crappy coach.
Yeah,
and Herbert had Harbaugh this year, so you can't say, oh well, he had Staley. He had Harbaugh this year, dude, and he still played crap in a playoff game.
Even Jordan Love won a playoff game last year on the road.
Yeah, I'm not sure on Jordan Love. He's very inconsistent, hit or miss for me, but I totally get the idea of what you're going for with this.
So, bottom line is, I'm sorry. Like, how can you defend Justin Herbert after what he did today? Like, remember, this was his 5th year in the league. That's already a lot of time.
Yeah, and I mean, and you can say like, oh, he only threw 3 interceptions this year. He had a great year. I mean, look at Harbaugh teams and look at how he dumbs down the offense, and that's why the quarterbacks don't really throw that many interceptions. I mean, McCarthy was in the single digits at Michigan last year. Kaepernick threw way more interceptions after Harbaugh left San Francisco. Alex Smith's interceptions, they've went way down with Harbaugh. You know, it's just the way his teams play. Like,
yeah, and I just feel like, thinking again for mentioning that, like, for all Charger fans who are saying, "Oh, we had a great year, we overexceeded expectations," guess what? You might say you might have a better team on paper next year, but you will not have the same schedule luck. You will not have the same turnover luck, like being turnover free, and you will not have the same success you had in situational football as you were this year.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You and I have talked about this for a while privately, and it's just the truth. You guys can call us haters and say we're biased all you want, but you don't repeat like the super low touchdown percentage allowed in the red zone. Those things don't repeat year to year when they're that low. The insane turnover ratio, that stuff doesn't repeat year to year when it's as extreme as it was for the Chargers this year. And like you said, the situational football, third downs, red zone, all that stuff. I mean, in the regular season, they were first in points allowed. They were 11th in yards. Now, 11 yards is good. Like, now, yes, you can say, well, when they played the good teams and the good quarterbacks, they gave up more. So they probably weren't quite that good, you know, in both yards and points. But the difference between first in points and 11th in yards is kind of big, because usually the number one scoring defense is, I would say, probably top 8 usually in yards. So,
yeah.
So you're not going to repeat that situational football success again. And then, you know, the Chargers, yeah, they had some injuries this year, but Dobbins was hurt all the time in Baltimore. Bosa's injured every year. So those are kind of just normal things, honestly, to me.
Yeah.
Those are things you expect. I mean, McConkey had injury problems at Georgia, and he played 16 out of 17 games this year. So you really think he's going to play that many games again? I mean, I don't believe that Alt or Slater missed any games. It seems like they have O-line injuries every year usually.
Yeah.
Now, someone correct me if they did miss games, because I have no idea. But I don't recall them missing any games. I mean,
they felt like they were relatively healthy all year. But
yeah,
and again, you're not going to be
like middle of the pack in terms of like injuries and IR. And you're like, well, middle of the pack. That seems like they can do that again. This is the team that has like catastrophic injuries every year.
Right. Like, this is a team that's known to have injury issues. That's not going to change overnight. That's not going to change in 1 year. So,
no. And going back to what you were saying about what I was saying, about quarterbacks and Harbaugh keeping the interceptions down. Even look at Stanford. Like, Luck was interception prone, turnover prone at times with Indianapolis in the NFL. You would agree with that, right?
Yes.
He only threw 22 interceptions in 3 years with Harbaugh at Stanford. So, and then he threw 18 as a rookie in the NFL. So, and you can say, well, that was the transition. But he threw almost as many in his rookie year in the NFL as he did in 3 years in college. That just shows that the way Harbaugh plays is to keep the interceptions down. And he's not going to go all season only throwing 3 interceptions again. Do you remember 2010, the year New England went 14-2? Brady only threw 4 interceptions all year?
Yes.
The following year, he threw 12, which is not a lot, and he still had a great Tom Brady season. Quarterback rating well over 100, threw for 5,000 yards, I believe 39 touchdowns. But the interceptions just went way up naturally, because it's hard to go
it's basically impossible.
A whole season throwing that few interceptions 2 years in a row is what we're saying.
Like, Herbert's going to have around 10 next year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course, like, you're not going to... like I said, the situational football, like the red zone defense and the turnovers, third down stuff, that doesn't repeat. Like, when it's that extreme, like, that doesn't repeat year to year. That has to come back to the pack a little bit. Like you said, Probably going to end up dealing with more injuries next year. Probably going to end up with a more difficult schedule. It's a second-place schedule instead
they're
of
playing a second-place schedule. Like, they're not going to feast on the Patriots, the Titans, the Browns, the Saints. You get the point. The Panthers.
Yeah, I mean, basically because of the fourth-place schedule, who'd they play this year? Tennessee and New England.
Yeah.
Like, if they had a second-place schedule this year, that would have been
Miami and
well, it would have been Jacksonville, and the Jags sucked. So, but still, you get the idea.
Yeah.
But Miami instead of New England, that's a big difference.
No, they would have played the Colts.
Yeah. Oh, or Indianapolis. Yeah, I mean, Indy was way better than Tennessee. You don't know how that game could have gone.
And the Dolphins are a lot better than the Patriots, especially when they had Tua.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just like, yeah, I mean, it's absolutely true. Harbaugh can coach. I'll give you that. Your roster will be better on paper next year. I'll give you that. But you have to consider all the things we just said, too.
So, yeah, like, honestly, I don't think the record's going to be as good next year. I think they're going to be like 9-8, 10-7. And remember, the AFC is good. There's going to be teams that will improve besides the Chargers as well.
Of course. I mean, absolutely. And that's another thing, too, is that they played the NFC South this year. Carolina and New Orleans. I mean, when they played Carolina got better as going on. When they played Carolina week 2, we thought Carolina was going 0-17 then. New Orleans was terrible this year. Next year, they play the NFC East. You know, Philly's one of the best teams. Washington's up and coming. Dallas should be better next year. Now, the Giants are absolutely terrible, but the other 3 teams will be tough.
Right. That's why I see them going like 9-8.
Yeah, absolutely.
With everything we said.
So, yeah, I mean, and you can call us haters all you want, but most of the stuff tends to happen with them.
Like, listen, we were fans. We paid attention. For any Charger fans who think they're going to be better, I don't think they're going to even be close to what they did from 2006 to 2009.
No, I don't think so either. And another thing you have to remember is that they were all hyped after 2018. They went 12-4. They're like, oh, and Bosa didn't play most of the season. And, you know, we make these additions the offseason. We're going to win the Super Bowl next year. They went 5-11 next year.
And then when everyone hyped them up, even like, yeah, you made the playoffs in 2022, but did you play as well as you thought they would? No.
They had to rally against collapsing teams in December just to get in that year. So,
and then they collapsed themselves in that 27.
Yeah, game. Like we talked about. So, I mean, yeah,
this is the Chargers, guys.
You got anything else to say on them?
I was just about to say, don't forget who the owner is.
Yeah, that's the last thing I was going to say too about them. So we'll just close out this segment about them with this. It's Spanos curse. I mean, What more can you say? I mean, to lose to that Houston team that badly today, I mean, it defies explanation. And I think
you can get a good head coach like Harbaugh. Like, yeah, he's a good head coach. There's only so much you can do. When you have Dean Spanos as your owner.
And I'll say the fact that this embarrassing loss for them, disgusting if you're a fan of them, that was an embarrassing loss for them in the playoffs. Karma, because it happened on the 8-year anniversary of when he moved the team.
Never forget
the Spanos curse in action. I don't know what is, especially with the additional irony that it came against the Houston Texans, who replaced the Houston Oilers, who betrayed Houston. So, the irony in that.
And the Texans, of course, are the newest team in the league. So you never forget January 11th, 2017.
And then 8 years later, you get embarrassed by a team that probably didn't even deserve to be in. That's called karma to me. Spanos curse. Like, I don't even know what else you can say.
You know what? Since we're saying this, I'm going to pile on one more thing. It's been, 17, 18, 19, 20?
8 years.
8 seasons now. 8 seasons now in that city. You've only won one playoff game. A measly one playoff game. What have you done off the field as well to gain more fans? What have you done on the field to prove yourself that you're an LA team? Huh? Has it worked out?
No, I wouldn't say so.
It's not going to get any better.
And I like to say this too before we move on from them is that, what we love about sports is that it can be like something that you rally behind, in tough times. Like, of course, what's happened with the fires in LA this week, which is just horrible to see. And
I just hope everyone's okay with it out there. Obviously, prayers and my thoughts.
I mean, that's obviously horrible. But where I was going with this is that you remember the Chargers when they were here, they played the Texans the Sunday after the 2007 wildfires here. And the Chargers kicking the Texans' ass that game was kind of like a unifying rallying thing for
San Diego,
for the region after they played the Texans this week when the wildfires going through LA and they got killed. So that just shows you I think that's kind of like symbolism in a way.
Yeah.
And why since you talked about what have they done to make themselves an LA team, I really think if they had won today, they could have been like a rallying thing for LA, but no, they didn't.
No, so again, I think it just shows you karma and that it was such a stupid decision to begin with, and it was the wrong decision. And guess what, Dean? You're paying for it, and you will continue to pay for it because there's no going back. You made your bet, Dean. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, not sorry.
Exactly. So,
all right.
It's been 8 years now. That's already a long enough time to have yourself quote unquote established, but you're not. You're still nothing there.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Now, let's close out this episode talking about the other playoff game tonight, which was also won by a team that gave a city an NFL team again after they'd been betrayed by the previous team, and that's the Baltimore Ravens. So, what do you have? Any comments on this game?
The Ravens did what they had to do. Obviously, they had the three touchdown lead at half, and then they just did what they had to do the second half to do enough to make sure the Steelers didn't really threaten to come back. So, yeah, Ravens covered. Ravens won 28-14. Derrick Henry was a huge reason why, of course. And, it'll be interesting to see, especially if what we think will happen tomorrow morning will happen. We'll get, like we talked about earlier this week, Baltimore and Buffalo, given that the Bills win.
Yeah, which I don't see how Denver's going to go in there and win.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, I'll just say this about Baltimore is that everyone thinks about the Ravens how do you think it's going to be different this year for them, right? In the playoffs, given their playoff struggles and shortcomings and disappointments. And I said Derrick Henry, and he had a monster game tonight.
And they're actually they're feeding him the ball.
Yeah, I mean,
which he didn't do again. That's what they won away from last year. There's no reason why they're going to go away.
This year they said, I don't think they got Derrick Henry to get away from the running game in the playoffs again. I mean,
oh no,
they had 50 rushing attempts and only 21 passing attempts for Lamar. Now, of course, it's not quite that skewed because there are some dropbacks that turn into scrambles for Lamar, but still and RPOs was well. But the point is Baltimore showed signing Henry the way they kind of rode him at times this season. That we signed Derrick Henry to give him the rock in the playoffs, and we'll jump on his back in the playoffs the way Tennessee did in 2019 when they made the AFC Championship game with a much worse roster than Baltimore has now. So that was my big thing with the Ravens, and they kind of showed it tonight.
And again, maybe it was a good thing they had to deal with some adversity in that we questioned them before they had to bye, before they readjusted and they got re-energized.
Yeah, so like we said, they could be like the 2020 Tampa Bay Buccaneers and just needed that late bye to kind of reset and charge up for a late run.
And again, the two times the Ravens won the Super Bowl in the past, same thing happened. They had some adversity.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I believe that they went like a whole like
Month.
from halfway through October, from halfway through November in 2000, they didn't score an offensive touchdown, and then obviously they struggled in December in 2012. So
yeah, maybe this is what the Ravens needed, was like a wake up call, and yeah, it will be interesting to see, especially if the Bills win, because we talked about it last episode. So yeah, shout out to the Ravens. Guys are definitely a threat, and let's give some time to the Steelers as well. This is not the same organization as you guys were in the past. Hate to say it.
is the standard still the standard there, Mike Tomlin? I mean,
this is not the first time that we've seen a Mike Tomlin-led team as of recently collapse towards the end of the season, and then they lay an egg in January.
Yeah, I mean, and it's time to have this conversation about Mike Tomlin. And I've gone back and forth on how good I think Tomlin is. Pretty much his whole since the 2017 playoff loss to Jacksonville, I've kind of gone back and forth about whether Tomlin is as great as people say or not. Like, and the first 13 games this year, I was like, okay, maybe this guy actually is pretty good. But then the same thing happens again, and you just have to wonder about this guy. I mean, you have to remember too, that Super Bowl that he won was with Bill Cowher's team.
Yes, he inherited Bill Cowher's roster.
And that was one of the best defenses of the modern era too.
And again, that defense, like, they haven't been that good on defense for a long time now.
No,
like, yeah, they've had solid defenses, but they haven't been that elite.
Yeah, and look at those teams then. Troy Polamalu is a top 2 safety of all time. Him and Ed Reed are probably the best 2 safeties of all time. James Harrison could end up in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, one defensive player.
Casey Hampton was one of the best nose tackles. The linebackers, James Ferrier, Lamar Woodley were very good. Brent Kiesel was a very good defensive end.
Yeah, like, they were just more well-rounded along with talent compared to what they've had. Like, yeah, they've had good defenses, but it's nothing close to that.
No, I mean, you would think that, like, even this year, like, yeah, they're mostly good, but they're generally pretty good today. Tonight, obviously not, but they're usually good. But you would think that you would get more consistent production out of a defense that has T.J. Watt and Cam Hayward.
Yeah,
like, those are 2 elite players in their positions. You would think that, with those guys, and you got some pretty solid players elsewhere on that defense, you'd think the Steelers would be more consistently good defensively, but they're not.
No, and then the offense has been very hit and miss recent years as well, and that hasn't changed.
No, I mean, and I just look at Pittsburgh too like this. Since they lost that Super Bowl to Green Bay, they've won a total of 3 playoff games. None since the 2016 season. And those
2 of them were 2 of them were in one playoff run.
Yes, those 3 playoff wins since that Super Bowl loss to Green Bay, when Cincinnati self-destructed, and if they didn't self-destruct, they would have beat them with A.J. McCarron at quarterback. And then the 2 in 2016, you face Matt Moore at home in the first game. Like, come on. And that Miami team wasn't that good to begin with. And then you faced Alex Smith. I mean,
yeah,
those are your 3 playoff wins in the last 14 years.
Not great.
And I mean, and maybe, because I know people make fun of it now because they don't like win anything in the playoffs, but there is something to the whole he's never had a losing season thing. So I think maybe it might be best for both Tomlin and the Steelers if a team like traded for him, like, yes, you can trade for a head coach. That's how Tampa Bay got Gruden back in 2002. Like, that might be beneficial to both Pittsburgh and Tomlin. Do I think it'll happen? No, but it might be beneficial to both sides at this point.
I'm with you. I think the Steelers need a change if they want to be a better team. And like, Tomlin has had his time, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically like even Andy Reid was in Philadelphia just too long. Like, it wasn't that Andy Reid, the Eagles struggled the last 2 years with them and didn't win a playoff game the last 4 years with him there, but it wasn't because Andy Reid couldn't coach football anymore. It was just that both teams needed to move on, and he's been an unbelievable success, obviously, in Kansas City. So might just be a situation where the Steelers need a new voice and Tomlin needs a fresh start. Like, I think it's one of those situations, but again, I don't think it'll happen.
I agree with you. So
I'm just saying that I think it should.
Because I just think if they keep Tomlin, they're not going to go anywhere. They're not going to get that much better.
No, as long as Mike Tomlin, I can tell you what, dude. As long as Mike Tomlin is still there in Pittsburgh, the Steelers are going to go 9-8 or 10-7 and win 0-1 playoff games every year.
Yeah, you're not going to get to an AFC title game. You're not going to get
and for such a proud franchise with such a great history, the first franchise to win 6 Super Bowls, like as proud as your history is, you've had one losing season since the early 90s. Like,
yeah,
you wanted more if you're Pittsburgh.
No question. That's a proud fan base.
Proud tradition there, great history. Like, you've reached as far as you're going to get with Mike Tomlin, and you need to start over there, basically, if you're Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
At least in my opinion. I don't know about yours.
I'm with you 100%. Like, Tomlin has done a good job there, but I just feel like it's run its course for where the Steelers and their fan base should want to be.
Yeah, and they just, again, it's not necessarily, even though I'm not sure how great he really is. I'm not saying this is a knock on Tomlin. I'm saying it's like he could, maybe if he started, over somewhere else, he could, start getting more results, with a new organization.
Right.
And Pittsburgh, maybe somebody new could get them further than they've gone.
Right. And again, we've seen Tomlin had his share of talented teams. Couldn't win without. He couldn't win a playoff game with them, or most of the time.
No, I mean, it's embarrassing that all those years that they had, Roethlisberger, Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, like, honestly, it's quite embarrassing that they never got to a Super Bowl with those teams. Only got to the AFC title game once in that era with those players.
And then we obviously knew what happened with the locker room when they had all three towards the end of that era. So
yeah, that's where I think Tomlin goes wrong to me. Like, is he great with, like, do players like live up to their potential with him? I would say individually, yeah. It's just as a team, not so much.
No.
Individual players like develop under him, but they just the locker room stuff, like the lack of discipline. He's too much, like Terry Bradshaw said in like 2016. He's too much of a cheerleader. And a rah-rah guy. He's got to have a little, more discipline in there too. I mean, it's great that he's player friendly and it helps these guys become better players, but I think the lack of discipline, leads to what we see with Pittsburgh.
And again, I think the lack of urgency, again, what happened 2020, and then again, it happened again this year. Like, late season collapses and you never can recover from it.
Yeah, like you said, lack of urgency and discipline. Like, they treated Jacksonville as a joke going into that playoff game, 2017 season. They were like talking all this trash about how they were gonna, go to Foxborough and get revenge on the Patriots. It's like, you guys had to beat Jacksonville first. They didn't even focus on the task at hand this year.
No. So, like, again, I think those are already all the signs you need to know. Like, for me and you, yeah, I think both sides need to split.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that if you ask pretty much any Steelers fan at this point, they would say, yeah, we appreciate, the Super Bowl he got us. We appreciate the playoff that he's kept us, as this organization that's always competitive. But, like, we need to do more now, and we need a new voice in here. I think most Steeler fans would agree with that.
Again, I'm with you. I don't think.
I mean, he's now, since Belichick left New England after last season, Tomlin's now the longest tenured coach in the league.
Yeah.
Is he the longest tenured coach / manager in all 4 major sports?
Sounds about right.
Oh no, Popovich in San Antonio in the NBA.
Yeah.
So he's not, but he's got to be top 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Because I don't follow NHL all that closely, but I know they go through hockey coaches so quickly there.
Oh yeah, no question.
Yeah, and it seems like in baseball they're going through managers faster too.
Yeah.
Like, is Dave Roberts really the longest tenure manager in baseball? Did I see that right when somebody said that? He hasn't even been there 10 years. Like, and if he's actually the longest tenure manager in baseball, that's crazy. I think that's right, actually. The more I think about it.
With the same team, probably.
Yeah, with the same team, of course. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah. Just like
That would be
scanning
crazy.
everything.
That feels
sense.
Right, which is crazy because he hasn't been there 10 years.
Yeah. I think just like thinking over everything, it makes sense.
Yeah,
that's wild.
That really is wild. I mean,
I think that shows the point. You don't want to stick with a guy too long, especially if you're not getting the results you want, especially being a franchise like the Steelers.
No, like, if you're like, I don't know, if you're the name a friend, like if you're the Jets, the Jets kept Rex Ryan probably a couple years longer than they should have, but getting those 2 straight AFC Championship games was more than anybody else had done with the Jets besides that 1 year with Parcells in 98. So, but Pittsburgh obviously has much higher standards than the Jets. So,
I think someone is tied with Dave Roberts. It's our old friend Bud Black.
No, Bud Black's first year in Colorado was 2017.
Was it?
Yeah.
So 1 year. So 1 year off.
Yeah, 1 year off.
Okay. But still.
Yeah, it's the longest tenure with one team. It had been Counsell because he'd been with Milwaukee since early in the 2015 season, but obviously Counsell's with the Cubs now.
So yeah, I think again that shows you don't want to keep a coach for too long. Like there's an expiration date that.
Like I would argue that Popovich has passed his expiration date a while ago in San Antonio. I mean, I know they're playing better this year, but he hasn't been there. He hasn't physically been there.
No. And then Belichick, once Brady left, there was an expiration date with him as well there. So, and one thing we want to name, since we just mentioned like Belichick and the Patriots, Mike Vrabel is probably going to be the head coach, and that shouldn't be a surprise.
No, I think Vrabel's a good coach. I like Vrabel as a coach, but to me, that just seems like New England's trying to keep the whole Belichick Patriot way thing alive. And that didn't work out with Mayo this year. So, you got to go a clean break from that and go in a different direction. So, I don't really like that.
I think Vrabel's a good hire, but I think you could have done better if you wanted to really change things there in Foxborough.
No, Vrabel would have been a good hire for any other team. I just think for New England, it's bad because they got to break away from that whole Patriot way thing. With Belichick. Stop trying to.
That's not going to work anymore.
Yeah, there's a reason. Why did you even let Belichick go in that case?
Right.
And by the way, I'll just close out with this because I've somehow forgot to mention it 5 podcasts in a row since he got hired by them.
Belichick to UNC. Yep.
What do you think of Belichick to UNC?
I'm fascinated by it because I'm just curious to see how he does with this era of NIL transfer portal. Recruiting.
Yeah, I'll say this about it. I'm not a fan of him, and I think most people outside of New England aren't fans of him.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that, he's going to North Carolina, and one of my aunts went to Duke, so that doesn't help his cause at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I am curious to see how it goes. I would say the same, basically how I feel with Dion at Colorado, where I'm not a fan and not necessarily rooting for him. I'm definitely not rooting for him, but I am curious to see how it goes, how he does.
Same here.
I will say what's interesting about it is that I thought, when he got hired, I was I kind of laughed to myself. I'm like, what's his recruiting pitch going to be to these kids? Is he going to walk into these kids' houses and be like, hey, kid, I'm Bill fucking Belichick. Look at my Super Bowl rings. Like, I was like, does he actually have a plan besides that? Was my first thought. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But then, he was on the Pat McAfee show talking about it, and he talked about how like he was going to basically make it like sell it as like my program's going to be like an NFL prep academy or something like that. And I was like, okay, maybe that'll work. So I'm curious.
And again, like what he did in New England, like he's had success, obviously. He knows what it takes for guys to be in the NFL. So hopefully, like that's a recruiting pitch. Like if guys want to make the league, he can help.
Yeah. And I will say this too, like I was really surprised that he took the job. Like I was like, why would Bill Belichick? I guess he really wanted to coach again that badly if he took this job. This isn't even like, Alabama or like some blue blood program. This is North Carolina, which is traditionally a basketball school, obviously.
So
I thought that was interesting too. And I almost wonder if it's like, because obviously him and Nick Saban, know each other. And while they're friends, there's also kind of like an ego thing between the two of them, like a competition thing.
Right, that Bill wants
a competition / ego thing. So I almost wonder if it's like if he wanted to, because a lot of people think Belichick is the greatest NFL coach ever. I personally lean more Joe Gibbs just because Washington didn't have a Hall of Fame quarterback any of those 3 Super Bowls, whereas most of these great coaches have even had, have had Hall of Fame quarterbacks. But the point is like a lot of people think Belichick's the best NFL coach ever. A lot of people think that Saban's the best college coach ever. But of course, Saban didn't win in the NFL. So I almost wonder if that's kind of a way of Belichick trying to say like, hey, Nick, look, I'm going to try and win in college too. Like as like a kind of like a competition / ego thing.
Right.
Which is why if I was one of these NFL teams that has sucked for a while, like the Jets, I would like honestly reach out to Sam and be like, you want to give it another crack in the NFL? Like, it'd be kind of like an ego thing with Belichick, like on the other end, on his end.
Right.
I mean, and people are like, well, he didn't win in the NFL. Okay. I mean, which is funny because like maybe if he was in the right situation, he could, because remember, he almost made the playoffs the first year at Miami. Yeah. And last month, during the pregame for the SEC championship, they talked about, taking an NFL job because I think Chicago had just fired Eberflus at the time. Right. And he said, like, you got to, like, you could say the city's beautiful and all that, but you got to, like, look at the situation. And he admitted to having a bad case of the dumbass. This was his own words, taking the Dolphins job, even though Miami was a beautiful city. And he said, because $17 million over the cap, which was a lot back then, no quarterback, oldest team in the league, no draft picks because they gave them all for Ricky Williams. And he said, like, you got to, like, make sure all that's in place before you take a job. So if you were in the right situation, like, if you had a quarterback in the salary cap room, maybe he'd give it a go.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody's going to do that because there's this perception that he's just a failed NFL coach. But, I think he retired from Alabama, not necessarily because he didn't want to keep coaching, but I think he was, based off his interviews and stuff, he was tired of he didn't like the NIL, the direction college football is going with the NIL and the portal. Yeah, I'm sure you've probably heard those same interviews.
Definitely have.
Yeah. So I just wanted to close on that. Do you have anything else about anything sports related before we get out of here?
No. Obviously, we still have the 3 wildcard games left. Broncos, or 4. 3 tomorrow.
3 tomorrow, and then Minnesota and the Rams on Monday.
So I got the Bills, got the Eagles. I'll go Commanders. I think you're gonna agree with all 3. And
yeah, because we did these picks last time you were on, and I mean you went 2-0 today. So if any of you guys gamble, Buffalo, Washington, and Philly are the winners, according to Matty. Matty went 2-0 today. So if you're listening to this before the games start on Sunday and you want to put some money down on a game, Matty went 2-0 today, so you might want to listen to him.
I guess. But and then Monday, I'm still going to go Rams, even though they moved the game to Arizona. I just feel
I kind of lean Vikings now just because,
that can go either way.
Thinking thinking that they were going to be playing at home and then suddenly being displaced and then worrying about what's going on with their families and stuff. I think that that's gonna hurt the Rams. Whereas the Vikings already knew they were traveling west. So
true, but I feel like again, like we said last week, that was a what do you call it? That was a bad loss. How the Vikings lost, like you lost the division title, you lost the number 1 seed. Now you're going to be a wild card. You could say for the Rams as well, they can rally around each other. And they could really use this again.
Like go either way, because you could argue that because remember, like
play together to motivate themselves.
Yeah, I mean, but it could go either way because you could argue that because remember the Chargers have to deal with the same stuff. They're also in LA now, so like the Chargers had to deal with the same stuff, and maybe that stuff impact them today. We'll never know, but so it's just interesting to me. But I know I picked the Rams when we made these picks. When we did our playoff bracket, kind of leaning Minnesota now, but we'll see.
That's a toss up. I always thought it was.
I mean, I don't think either of those teams will win in Detroit or Philadelphia, anyways. But
no, so
but that might go differently now.
Yeah, we'll see.
Obviously rooting for Minnesota because of our guy, Kevin O'Connell, the Aztec, is their coach.
You got anything else?
No, I think that's all. If you have anything else on sports at all, go ahead. We can talk about it. If not, we're going to close this out.
Nothing else from my end.
All right, then. So thanks for listening, guys, and we'll talk to you